Hey, welcome to another update on Archmage Rises, and sorry, it's been a month since the last update, which I'll tell you about in a second, but I just want to thank those who have pre-ordered the game in the last couple of weeks, last month, and that's very much appreciated by me and the team. And if you have pre-ordered at a level of like creating your own NPC and such, the reason that you may not have received an email is because we're not ready in order to do that stuff yet. We're still working on the core game itself, and then when it comes to the custom content for the various support tiers of the game, that'll be coming, and there'll be an announcement on this video and the website and Steam and all kinds of stuff. You like my cool t-shirt? It's an Altair 8800 computer. I got this from the Seattle Living Computer Museum, and it's one of my favorite t-shirts, and I can't believe I haven't worn it on an update before. Maybe I have. Anyway, yeah, so it's been a month since the last update, and there's a couple of reasons why. This game is really hard to make, and there are other things that are going on in my life that are making it even harder. I have a little sign up right behind my monitor here that says game dev is hard and kids equals hardcore mode. If you ever played Diablo or any of the roguelikes and you tick on the hardcore mode, you're playing for all the marbles, no chance of failure. So that's what's happening here. So the first thing is, right in the middle of July, my oldest daughter, who is 7, she had a tummy ache, and we were just like, whatever, little kid has tummy ache and stuff. Yeah, it actually was an appendectomy or appendicitis, and then we had to take her to the hospital, which is an hour away, and then it turns out that it was her appendix, and then she needed to get it out. And it turned out that it had ruptured right before they had taken it out. And so there was a big mess inside of her that they had to clean up. And my wife had her appendix out when she was like 16 or so. And when we were talking about it in the car as we're driving her to the hospital, driving my daughter to the hospital, it was like, is this like down to a day surgery now or something? Or like, I don't really know. It seems like a pretty common procedure, but I don't know. And anyways, it is not a simple day surgery thing. It's actually really serious, and we ended up having to live in the hospital for an entire week. It's very hard to get a 7-year-old to get up out of bed and exercise and stuff. If they're a little older, I think you can kind of reason with them more, but she didn't feel well, and she was staying in that bed, and she thought for the rest of her life she was going to live in the hospital. She didn't know that she could get out. And so we finally convinced her to start moving around and stuff. But it was a pretty terrible week, and quite scary. I don't know if any of you are parents and with young children, but having to take a 7-year-old in to get serious stomach surgery, you never know how powerless you really are as a human being until suddenly your kid is very sick. So fortunately, Claire is fine and running around, and she went swimming, and she's on the trampoline and everything. So that's all great. But anyways, obviously I lost a bunch of time with that. But that's okay. That's why we have a team working on the game. And so Michael and Daniel too have been working on the game and making progress. The second thing that's been a challenge is I need to take some time off just to kind of clear my head, especially after all that hospital stuff and whatever. So I took 5 days off. No big deal, whatever. And then the finances are proving to be a challenge. So as of the time that I'm making this video, I am currently 7 days behind on paying Michael his paycheck. Now, he doesn't really care that much because he's a single guy currently living from home because he's trapped on the other side of the border and can't come back to where he lives here on the island. But anyways, it's been pretty stressful about the finances. But I've been working on a solution for that, for how we're going to finance the game, and I will tell you more about that soon in a coming update. But anyways, right now it's been a real struggle. So lots of challenges with trying to make this game. And then on top of that, we're trying to make a new kind of game that's never been made before. I tell you, I wish I was making like an RPG Maker RPG or the typical indie platformer game that seems to be all over Steam. That would sure be a heck of a lot easier than what we're trying to do here. But it is what it is. We're trying to break new ground, and yeah, we're going to make something that we think is really cool. So where are we at? Daniel 2 is continuing to work on the dungeons, while the rest of us have been working on the combat system. So we Build 12 was doing 3D dungeons, and Build 13 is redoing the combat system. So Daniel's been continuing to work on that, and he's done a bunch of work, and it's really cool. And I wish I could show it to you, but I'm just not good enough with Git in order to be able to download his stuff as a separate branch and make a build just with his stuff. And yeah, so I can't show it to you right now, but I will soon. We're going to try and put out a build 12.4 that includes these enhancements to the dungeon that you can enjoy. We are working on the combat, and I want to thank everybody that read through the combat design document that we published just over a month ago and giving us feedback, and that was really helpful. And so we have been working from that document and just trying to make things. So I'm going to show you. And so here we are in the game, and it looks both very familiar and also really terrible at the same time. So let me walk you through a couple of things that have happened here. The first thing is that we now have, everything is done by spots. So you're not targeting a character anymore. You're targeting the spot in which they exist, and that's the reason for that is that you can then shoot like fire onto a spot and cause it to burn, or shoot ice onto a spot and cause it to fill up. So we needed to remove the targeting from the characters and put it onto the spots on there. Now you're going to see these two things that are spazzing like they are in epileptic shock. Or no, yeah, they're having a seizure, and those are flying things. So we now have the ability to put flying elements in the game. They don't really. There's a lot wrong with them right now, but anyways, there's a flying barrel in the background there, and then there's this flying bat. And if I put my mouse over it, the sizing goes all weird and stuff. There's something wrong with their scaling. Like when I mouse over these things, they become larger. Just so you know what you're picking. But anyways, I told Michael, yeah, just make it like go up and down, and then it'll kind of look like it's floating and stuff. But yeah, it's too fast. So anyways, it just gives you an idea that something floating. So we have a 5x3 grid here. Close is this is close range, medium range, and then long range. And we now have another grid on top of that, which is for flying things. And so the question came up like, hey, if you have a bat and they're flying, can you cast levitate on a barrel and make the barrel go up, and then it now blocks the bat from being able to come and attack you? And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So that's what we did. So that's why you see a floating barrel there. Okay, so yeah, we refactored everything into spots. That was a big deal. And we also did that for your companions that are with you, henchmen, hirelings, and your mount as well. They all exist on spots. You can't see them right now, but anyways, they exist on a spot and they can be targeted by enemies. We have put in a line of sight. So you see I have an arrow showing, this is all programmer graphics, by the way, right now. But anyway, we're just trying to get it working. So you have an arrow showing you how far, or the line of sight for shooting your spell. So if I am here and I'm trying to shoot my spell, you see it goes into, it's dotted to say the spell that you want to cast here is not actually going to cast there. It's going to hit the block of ice that's in front of it. Which brings up another new thing in here is there's props. There's things like blocks of ice and that barrel. And so adding in props to make the combat more variable. There's more things in the battlefield, things that can get in the way or go wrong or help you set up traps and stuff. So that there's new props there. And this block of ice is set to be 2 units high, so it's blocking both the ground and the air above it. The graphic doesn't really show that, but anyways, that's what's happening. And so because it's so tall like that, we automatically make it see-through. So that's why, so you can see through it, you can see kind of what's behind it, and you can see what's there. And next, we have a new spell that I've been working on, and this is the Flame spell. It doesn't really do much of anything, but I'll show you something in a second. So we've updated to the latest Unity, and we can do cool particle effects now. So here's an example of a Flame spell that I whipped together. So it's just basically a ground spell that's going to create fire. So one of the things that we've been working on is this idea of elements on the battlefield and the ability to impact the battlefield itself, like the terrain and such. And we don't have a lot of graphics for it, but I'll just kind of show you how that works. So we have these blocks of ice. So if I was to cast a fire spell on this block of ice up here, what should happen? Well, fire meets ice, it should melt and turn into water. And so if I cast the spell here, we see that the ice disappears, and now we have a water puddle. And I can do it back here too. So what happens next? Well, if I cast a fire spell on there, then it's going to turn into a cloud, and that cloud should actually be higher. And, it took me 6.5 hours today just to get it working enough to show you this. So yes, the cloud should be higher, and the bat shouldn't be spazzing, but it is what it is. So yeah, when we add fire to that location, the water gets transformed into fog, and that blocks line of sight, even though it's sitting on the ground. It blocks line of sight from the monsters, so they can't shoot through it. And I don't think you can shoot through it either. I'd have to go check the notes to see what I decided on that. And so this is some of those elements that I was talking about in the design document. And I'll just very quickly show you kind of how that code for that works if you're interested. So I tried to make it really simple because, we're simple people working on this game. That's why it takes so long. And so it comes down to this core thing of we have a spot in the battlefield, and this is the spot class, and then we can add an element, and an element has something to it, like it's fire or it's water or oil or whatever. And so we just have these really simple combinations that we can test for. Does this spot currently have... so basically what happens is you pass in something like fire, like I want to add fire to this spot, and then it checks to see, hey, does this spot already have fire? Because if it already has fire, we're not going to have double fires. We're only going to have one element of fire in this spot. And then once we determine that, yes, now if the location is sand, if the terrain type is sand, then fire doesn't catch fire, and water just disappears, and oil just disappears. And so that's what this thing is checking the sand to see if that happens. But anyways, if we finally did add fire, then now we have this battle object element of fire, and now we can go and check to see for combinations. So is there a combination of fire and water? Then yes, then create a new cloud in that spot. Is there fire and snow? Then yes, then remove the fire and the snow and put in a puddle. That's the water thing that you saw. Is there fire and ice? Yes, because ice is different from snow. And you might be wondering, how are they different? Well, the answer is snow is something you can stand on. It's not necessarily slippery, whereas ice is like a pool, I don't know, the thing is just covered in ice and it's slippery. And so anyways, both of them, when you combine them with fire, they end up with a puddle on the ground. And then if we have dirt and water, those can combine and they can become mud. And so if you combine fire with mud, then that becomes hardened mud. So anything that was standing in the mud immediately becomes stuck. And so my whole point is that it's really easy to put together these combinations. So any combinations that we can dream up or you can dream up, we can put together in here. And I've been playing a lot of Divinity Original Sin, the EE edition. I don't even know what the EE stands for right now, but anyways, I've been playing that. And you'd think we totally ripped it off from them, and actually, I haven't played Divinity until after I already designed this stuff, and I was like, hey, look, there it is. So I can't claim it's unique, but I do think it works pretty well in Divinity, and I think it'll work pretty well in this game. Yeah, we're going to have fire on the ground and ice on the ground and people slipping and falling down, and you get combat bonuses and stuff. So it works right now. We can still shoot people. No, that didn't work. Okay. Anyways, it was mostly working before I started putting in all these elements. And we're going to continue on with working on the combat. And hopefully next week I can show you, I can figure out how to do a build with the dungeon stuff, and then I can show you the cool dungeon stuff. Okay. Bye.